Greetings and salutations, travelers. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads, and as always, welcome back to our Around the Hearth discussions. This time, we are discussing, let me see, our first one is Magical Mechanical Mania. It's all M's this time. I was pleased with myself, ladies and gentlemen. I broke out the thesaurus, and I got new words and fancy stuffs on there. So, there we go.
I love it.
But that's what we're talking about this time. So we are in March of the Mechs. We are going to be discussing, we're kind of focusing our discussion this time, since last time we discussed, in our last March discussion of the Mechs, we discussed broad concepts. This time, in accordance with our change in our way we're doing our filming, we're going to focus our first two on, firstly, the world building of fantastical mechs. So, working in that into your world with Magical Mechanical Mania, because we're going to talk about the influence of Magitek in your setting, as well as using that, in line with the idea of having big, huge mechs that you're fighting with. But before we get into that, we need to do two things. We need to do announcements and attendee spotlights, and then we need to do our Levi spotlight. So, let's see. You gotta tell me, gents, are we gonna roll to see who comes after me, or are you guys just gonna volunteer?
I like the rolling. All right. I mean, we are TTRPG, right? It is. You're so right. It
is fairly appropriate. Do either of you have dice with you, or am I stuck again with...
Oh, no, you're the GM here. This is your show.
Mine's all packed in the box from the convention.
Who doesn't have dice with them at all times?
In fairness, I have some right next to me, but it's my wife's metal dice. I am not allowed to touch it.
Well, I mean, considering her rolls, some of your luck might roll into that, so...
That's fair. The new ones do good, though. She got some new ones, so...
All right. So, high or low, Dan?
I'll go high. You go low.
All right, Scrat's going after me, then.
All right.
So, I am Adam L. Spain with the Inn of Planar Crossroads and the Gentle Voice TV. What our Inn of Planar Crossroads, which is where you are, is right there on the screen for you. And I didn't actually have that pulled up, but that is what we are here at the Inn of Planar Crossroads, covering that TTRPG content. If you want to check us out, you can do that and want to keep in contact with us, you can do that in the landing page we have, which is theiopc.com. And if you want to check out our ministry channel, it is the Gentle Voice TV. There's no web page for it, but this is it right here for you viewers. And yes, you can see that I've changed the layout. That might be my announcement this time, is that we've changed the layout. Hopefully it's come out the way I'm thinking it can. I'm hoping that it comes out to where I can have my glyph brackets for each thing. So can have it like screen highlight in my glyphs and stuff like that, and participants or attendees, or however I want to say that, over there, and then my logo. So we'll see. You can let me know in the comments if I was successful or if it looks like jank. So that is us. That's my announcements. So let's go to, we're trying to keep it pretty quick today, so let's go to Scrat. I've got his pulled up right here.
Oh, alright, yep. I'm Scrap from Squirrel Plays over on YouTube, and I make videos talking about some mechanics of storytelling, though it's kind of been a hot minute since I've done that. But that includes creating characters and world building, but I also dive into the mechanics of TTRPGs, also both in the storytelling sense and the actual gameplay. And I've been diving into new to me TTRPGs of late. For example, I guess, let's say this is coming out in March, so I'll have a video a couple weeks old by that point, looking into Dim Day Red. I don't know if either of you have heard of that. No, that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's it. Just trying to get others on board and sharing what they come up with and making new things. That's it.
Cool. It is amazing to see having got into tabletop gaming when it was not as widespread, and to see it be like, oh, there's this new TTRPG out. It's like, oh, there is?
It's everywhere you look.
Yeah.
Somebody's making something.
All right. Well, cool beans. We'll look forward to that. And that means we're over to Avenue Studios. Got you highlighted up here on YouTube.
Ah, you're the best. Hey everybody, Dan from Avenue Studios. You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, and anywhere you listen to your podcasts. You can also check us out at avenuestudios.media. And let's see, we're doing some cons. My special announcement will lead into Levi's Spotlight, that I'll be attending a con run by DM Tales, West from DM Tales, so I'm very excited about that. And we have some new shows. Hopefully by the time you're watching this, they'll be starting to come out, but we'll see. They're all in pre-production. Oh, speak of the devil.
Oh.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much us. Check us out, subscribe, join. We are now live. Our live streams are now multi-streamed on Rumble and YouTube simultaneously, which I'm very excited about. So we're playing with that technology, and hopefully it's working well. So join us over there if you would so desire.
Indeed. Aha! We see you.
Oh, we can hear us.
We see his glorious face, but not his lustrous voice.
I think he can hear us.
Yes. Well, I said it because I knew he could.
Yeah.
Okay, well, viewers, while he figures that out, we can actually shift over, since we're right to Levi's Spotlight, which is DM Tales this time. So let me pull that up. Well, he straightens that out. So here's DM Tales on YouTube, and it is, he's at, since we do this with every one of our spotlights, we're going to say he's at 2.5k subs right now. Let's get him up to, let's shoot for 3k.
Sure.
Why not?
Absolutely.
We'll shoot for 3k, but we'll see how that goes. So DM Tales is right there on that one. And he has, for our Levi's Spotlight, a CleesaCon coming up, and I've got that pulled up for here. So that's going to be April 12th, 13th, and 14th, which is why we are showcasing it in March of the Mechs, so that we can put that out there and you have time to know about it before it happens. So I'm sure he's going to be back shortly. But that's that one. It's going to be at Palmyra, New Jersey. So, if you...
It's gonna be great. Jacob and I will be there running games, and there's a lot of other cool people running games there. And he has Jacob and I on a panel, so we'll talk about something, and it'll be great.
I gotta get out to a con.
Yes.
I mean, you could drive from you're like Kentucky or Tennessee or something. So
Tennessee.
It's like, so Tennessee, you can drive from. I suppose you could drive from Tennessee. You're technically closer to me than you are to them.
You guys do your own thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. We were just talking about a CleesaCon and how it's happening Friday. Yeah, Friday the 12th, April the 13th, and then April the 14th.
Yes.
So
it should be fun, and hopefully I'll remember to go.
That would be good. I mean, there's a bunch of these weird dressed people show up at your church, and you're like, they're like, where? Where's
don't
Wes?
think I would notice. It would be.
It is
just
Jersey.
Weird people here all the time. So, no, it was great. Hey, Wes, we're going to start recording. I'm like, oh shoot! I was literally about to sit down and start writing my review of Land of M. Because I was just
okay, Wes. This has been on the appointments for like a month or something.
Yeah. That's the week I've been having. Yay!
Yay!
God bless you, my brother.
Thank you. Sorry.
No worries.
Your timing couldn't have been better, to be honest. Yeah. It was perfect.
That's awesome. So, but yes, CleesaCon's going to be fun. We're going to have some really, 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 really good guests. I've got a couple of people that I can't announce yet that are going to be coming, which I'm really excited about. Dan, I'll talk to you about that offline.
Spicy.
And the most fun I think I'm going to have is on Saturday night, so on 13th, Jacob is running a Pathfinder 2E funnel, which apparently no one but him has heard about, even though it's in the core rules.
Yep.
And I've never read Pathfinder, so I have no idea. I'm like, a Pathfinder funnel? That doesn't make any sense because you're all rolling with like plus 25s. That doesn't. But he's going to run a funnel, and so I thought that would be fun. We're going to stick him in upstairs in the main room so everybody can watch the funnel and like cheer on as everybody like takes their bakers to their demises. It'll be great.
Yes.
So that's going to be fun.
We just did it at Running Gag. We've been doing that this weekend, and I lost 3 of my characters to the funnel.
I am doing my first funnel tomorrow. My friend of mine is running Shadow Dark funnel for a birthday present for me, and so I'll take all my characters to their dooms for a birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
Happy Death Day. But yes, EcclesiaCon's going to be fun. I woke up this morning and I went, I am now cautiously optimistic that it's going to not suck.
All right.
We hope so too, viewers. We hope so too.
The imposter syndrome is rather large. But thank you, Dan, for coming down for it.
Of course. I'm really looking forward to it.
Going to be a blast. So thank you for that commercial, and I'll go hide in a corner for being 15 minutes late now.
Well, that's all right. We're going to be let's just go ahead and get into it. That completes our Levi's Spotlight, ladies and gentlemen. So now, we hope that you will come and curl up by the fire with us around the hearth, grabbing your preferred beverage as we discuss magical, mechanical mania. Skål. Okay, so what we're really talking about, like I mentioned at the start, is that we are going to be discussing fantasy mechs. And fantasy, not just mechs, but in this first chat we're going to talk about fantasy and technology, putting it together in Magitek and seeing how that influences your setting and such along that lines. Before we go into the full discussion portion, we do like to do key points and system recommendations, as well as media recommendations. So I'm going to do some of that, and I will hopefully that will help whet our appetite for it. So some key points that I've written down for this one is to remember scale when you're dealing with your mechs versus humans and other things, and like squirrels. You got to remember that squirrels cannot pilot full mechs. They've got to pilot just the magical armor. That would actually be a good. Okay, Scrat, that has to happen now. Now you have to make run a little game with the squirrel. What was it? Squirrel Squad or Squirrel Patrol?
The Squirrel Death Squad.
Oh, Squirrel Death Squad and their death mechs in a Warhammer type of setting. Oh, there you go, Magitek.
Wait. There's a game called Squirrel Death Squad?
No, it was a video I did. It was a concept for a...
We can't get distracted. We can't get distracted. Okay, we'll talk about Squirrel Death Squad mechs.
Adam's yelling at everybody else. He started it.
Yeah. See, that's what you do when you're the organizer. See, you start something, and then you fuss at everybody else. So, anyway, back to key points. Remember scale. Embrace the drama, because most mech games have some kind of political intrigue. Most of them do. So that's okay to kind of branch into that, because a lot of the media branches into that surrounds mecha. Be willing to, since this is magic, you can bend or even break physics laws, the laws of physics, because you have that option with magical mechs and Magitek in general. And then one point I want to make sure that we touch on is picking a fuel source for your mechs. And then either you can have multiple, but you need to pick at least one. You have to really define that for your players so there's an idea of a resource management. There is a system that gets out of that, but not always. So that's some of my key points for mechanical mania as far as Magitek in a setting. Some media recommendations are the Vision of Escaflowne. I actually have these pulled up. So the Vision of Escaflowne, which is these are going to be mainly anime, since most mecha is anime. It has actual magical mechs. So you can check it out. It's from 1996, and just watching a few episodes is enough. You can watch the first episode, but if you're just looking for mecha type stuff, just pop around in a few episodes or watch some clips online on YouTube, and you'll get an idea of, wow, they put some thought into how these mechs work off of magic and such. There's also that one's a really good one. There's also Code Geass, which has some light magical touches, or pseudo magical, like psionic touches. So you can look at that one. And an early one is Aura Battler Dunbine, which is from 1983. And it's got more of that old school Gundam feel, but it has a magic kind of mixed in with it. Then Magic Knight Rayearth. It's the second season that really branches into big magic-powered mechs, but you can look at that one. If you can speak Japanese or are willing to read subtitles, you can go Mashin Hiro Wataru. It's a very family-friendly one. There's no true death in it, because everybody comes back good or something like that. And then this 8-year-old kid is piloting this big old mech. He transforms into a mech or stuff like that. So it's a lot more family-friendly. And then I also wanted to highlight Outlaw Star for reasons of, again, incorporating magic and tech together. If you're looking at world building and figuring stuff out, especially if you're looking at incorporating Eastern influences, Far Eastern influences into your mechs, this actually has... They're not really mechs, they're starships, but there are some small mechs in it. But it mixes Taoism and Taoism and the idea of galactic ley lines, not just Earth, not just planetary ley lines, but galactic level ley lines into the setting. And established in the first and second episode is this character. She's the main female character. It is Melfina, and there's this really legendary ship called the Outlaw Star, but to have it function at its full potential and find the true galactic ley lines and the center of the quote-quote universe, you have to have this extra thing, which is her. And she's like that ultimate connection between magical ley lines and this thing. It's a lot of cool world building. Asterisk, there's also, it's very Japanese and has a lot of fan service in it. So, it has some fan service in it, and I don't like the main character's attitude, but he is appropriately, I don't know, scuzzy, or I don't know, for the setting that they're in. So, take it as you want with that. But the world building was delicious. So, that's mine. Did you guys have any media that you wanted to shout out before we go into system recommendations?
Escaflowne and Outlaw Star were both the ones I was thinking when I got into this. So.
Yeah,
I remember watching those when they were new.
Yeah. Okie dokie. You don't have to date us that much, but okay. I accept it. So
I don't know if I have... I did see some clips from something called Knights and Magic, which looked cool, but I have no idea.
Yeah, based on reviews, that's all it is. It looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
I like the fighting clips of the mechs was what I was watching, so that looked... Yeah.
I mean, I don't know any magic tech. I'm not a huge anime fan anyway, which we've discovered on this before. But so my limit is just Robotech, which is wave your hand science, so it's almost magic, but that's basically it. So
Final Fantasy 3 had it.
That's true.
That is true. That?
Yep.
That started off, they were marching in mechs.
Yep.
The classic box art in the back with them all in the mechs.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. I guess most of the Final Fantasies do have some touches like that, so they are very useful to look at, especially from a design perspective, world building.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if there's no more media sources, I have system recommendations that we can touch on before we get into the full-on chat. I didn't start our thing. Now I've started it. So, systems. I have those pulled up as well. Open Legend. It's hard for me not to plug that one because I like how open it is. And you have just the right amount of crunch with the... If you want to take the extraordinary abilities and just relegate those to only being Magitek, and then all the other stuff is what you do. All the non-extraordinary abilities can be possessed by humans, but the Magitek is what those are. That's really useful for that. That type of a delineation. If you want something even more open and very loose, you can go with sagas. We've got that on here because we know the dude that did it, or we've met the dude that did it, I should say. So, sagas from OKSDM is on here, and it is a system we've messed around with and have found it to be quite open and open to interpretation. And because of that, you can do pretty much anything in it. I will mention some concerns at the end with using open system versus more crunchy systems. But those two are good for open type of storytelling systems. Another one I found was Battletech, of course. It is probably the oldest one in the States, anyway, for big mecha battles. And I think it has a lot of... There's been development with one of them, France or something like that, had a lot of development with it. Too, I thought, but that might be MechWarrior specific stuff. I'm not sure. I am not a tabletop historian, we'll say. I just know some things. So Battletech, that's especially good for crunchy stuff, but it is going to bump into a problem with, I think, incorporating the magic. You'd have to do a lot of reflavoring. And so that might be a bit more work on the GM side. For Mastiff Press, there are magic mechs in Lancer. So, well, they're magic-esque. It's like science that is basically magic. So, the Horus company, a Horus developer or something like that, I think is the really out there type of ones that they don't even know where come from. They just kind of appear. So, it's kind of a causality thing or something like that. So, those are pretty cool. And they have a really neat style to them. They definitely have their own flavor. That's for sure when you look at Lancer stuff. There's Apocalypse Frame for those of you that like Powered by the Apocalypse type of games and using that engine. So Apocalypse Frame is there. And that gets us about to the end of the ones that are mech themed ones that are specifically around that technology style. There are some that I found that fit right into this niche, which is, there's the Mech Hack, which is a black hack version. So I almost forgot that one. It's on here too, on my list. So there's a hack for that. And then we get to things like Beam Saber, which is indie, and it is specifically themed around that anime style. You can do a lot of exaggerated stuff, and from what I understand, it's a lot more. It's a more open one too, so you can just flavor that in to the world. A really nice one that fits correctly is Maharlika RPG. It is a Filipino, I think, RPG that's come out in the US not too terribly long ago, and it is literally spiritual themed mechs. You have to balance. One of the things in there in the mechanics is that you have a human pilot and you have this mecha that's powered by spiritual power and in alignment with a deity or something. But if you get out of balance, you overbalance, your pilot can get corrupted and taken over and stuff. So
it's kind of like what they did with the Voltron reboot.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
you know Voltron. It's big. It's big robots.
I do know Voltron.
All right. So Maharlika There is also Armor Austere Advent, which has huge anime influences. I'll try to have these links down in the description. Huge anime influences and has legitimate magic classes in it as well. And one I found that I was really interested in buying. I might like this. It's Iron Edda Accelerated. It is one I didn't know existed. It is about kind of a mecha, but it's completely fantasy. It's not technology at all. It is just fantasy. Like one of the pictures here that you viewers can see on the screen is it is a skeletal, huge skeleton, like a Jotun or a giant skeleton. But in its abdomen area is a normal-sized human, and it's got this rune up at the top of its skull, so it's like this human is piloting this big Jotun as a mech. So that's full-on fantasy, and it's not set in the future. It's set in, let me see, this would be kind of Ragnarok style type of stuff. So those are some of those systems, and that's what I've mainly got for you guys at the start. That was a lot. I did a lot more research this time I had a lot more pulled up for you guys this time, I should say. So there you go. Open discussion, gents. We can branch into it now.
One system I would say to throw into the mix, even though I haven't seen rules for it as of yet, I think there's some smaller ones in it, but would be Numenera. Because you're a billion years in the future, and the technology is so advanced and your civilization is so not advanced that it's basically magic, but you're using like high tech. And so it's this blend of like medieval fantasy with this real high tech bizarro world. So if you can throw mechs into that, and it'd be really simple to give it a level and off you go. So that would be an interesting one to try it out at some point. I might have to now throw my Numenera group into some mechs at some point and watch them blow up mountains and stuff. That'll be fun.
There you go. All right. So how would you guys try to... Let's see what you guys think about mixing this. And would you guys think that there's a preference between a hard magic system versus a soft magic system? I would think it would depend mainly on the type of story you're wanting to tell. That'd be the kind of the consensus.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the established genre, as far as I know, like the classics of like BattleTech, it's essentially a soft magic system. Because they're like, hey, we created fibers that act like human muscles. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, yay, magic. So I think people are used to it. So I think if people want a really hard magic system, and that's the type of game that they like to play, then throwing it into mechs would make it enticing to me. To me, I'm outing myself as someone who likes magic. But I think that's something that would be a good way to entice people to do that kind of genre jump into something with mechs. Like, if we like a hard magic system, well, have I got some fun for you? Whereas a lot of the established stuff is already just kind of soft magic.
So I had this in my head where it's like, you like soft magic system? Or you like magic? Well, have we got a game for you?
Mm-hmm.
Tabletop.
No.
Now it's in your head. There's never ever been a game like Tabletop.
No, stop. It's never going out of my head now. I'm not going to be able to get to sleep tonight because that stupid song's going to be in my head.
You just sing it to your wife.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On that note, LOL.
Yeah.
I was curious, the soft magic versus hard magic. We kind of talked about this when we talked about soft and hard magic. not necessarily that I don't know if it matters, but my thought is a lot of times with the mechs, because I always think Jacob loves mech stuff, and there is that crunch in the system. I don't know if that necessarily directly correlates to a hard magic system. What do you guys think? Because one of the things Jake always talks about is he loves specific parts of the mech getting damaged, rebuilding them, replacing them, things like that. Because I think one of the easiest ways you could do magic is you could simply take any kind of mech and just switch the power source with something magic. That's a very simple way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not pretty or clean necessarily, but it could be an easy starting place for it. And that idea of running out of fuel, especially if you want more of a diesel punk idea that you're actually running off of some kind of mana or something that you can actually track.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think about if you're getting crunchier with your system. Does it kind of shoo you into a hard magic system? Or is there a balance there? I mean, I'm sure there's probably a spectrum, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure if it necessarily has to.
Mm-hmm.
But it could. I mean, it could. I mean, it gives you a lot of areas of ways to narrate the hard magic.
Mm.
So it's not. I don't think it's necessary to make it a hard magic system, but it just gives you like a lot of ways that you can kind of make that part of the lore of running the mech that makes it more hard magic. And then if you attach mechanics to it, it feels like you're doing something when you're repairing. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more what it is. I don't think necessarily soft or hard is going to be determined by the types of roles that you have to do to run the game. It's more what type of world you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was feeling. I was curious. Yeah.
Well, I remember that when we were doing our discussion the first time, in the first March of the Mechs, we discussed how one option for dealing with not just the type of system you're using, but also dealing with scale, is to have one system for the out-of-combat stuff that doesn't involve the mechs, and then use a crunchier system for the mech builds. And this is something that can be done pretty easily, especially if you take something like Open Legend or Sagas. You just use one of those, or another open system and storytelling system for talking about how your squirrel mechanics are fixing on the mech and, all that type of stuff, and searching around for that. And, getting those conduits into the ley lines of the planet so that you can extract the Mako into the Mako reactor or something like that. And that can be done through soft stuff, your soft kind of social mechanics. But when it comes to the battle, then you can have a lot of fun interactions with the mech and the mech's actions in that battle. If you can get your players to agree to run with two systems, of course.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm intrigued by it. I would like to try it sometime.
But
I don't want
try
to
that sometime.
manage two systems either.
I'm still going back to squirrel mechanics, working on the mech. I now want the Squirrel Death Squad.
Oh, I didn't look at
I
see Scrat's picture. That's so good, dude.
Yep.
I love it.
Well, Scrat had
sorry, go ahead.
Magitek in his world, I believe, that he made.
Which one?
The
one that had crystals powering most everything, but the crystals are running out or something like that?
Okay, so Book World. Yes, that was... Yes. So the book that's currently out, they haven't got that far, but eventually in the timeline, yes, that is their technology. It's all based off the god's power that they have stored in those crystals. They learn how to utilize it.
So you have
Nice.
Magitek.
Yes. Yes. It's
Yeah,
early in the timeline. They're just trying not to blow themselves up with it.
Well,
That sounds
that's
like
every
nice.
timeline.
Well, okay, fair enough.
It always ends so well.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the idea of mixing the magic and the mech. I don't know, this might get into the second chat, so I'll be careful. But just the idea of like the crystals, so they having fun with the flavor of what is powering these mechs and how it works. I think it allows you to play with it a little bit more. And I love reflavoring things. I always end up doing that if I'm playing like Pathfinder 5th edition. I'll reflavor whatever it says. I don't care what you tell me. I know what it looks like in my head. So I like that for the mech. It's really cool. And I think you can have more of a actual connection, because we were talking like with the Outlaw Star and stuff, there's this kind of symbiotic type of relationship, which always kind of happens with mechs. That's the beauty of like the love of the machine and the person, and the machine has its personality. But with Magic, you can actually like tie that in. I was thinking about that one, the Iron Edda thing too. Almost gives me a little bit Attack on Titan vibes with like flesh mechs. But actually having like the life source of the pilot could be something that you could track as well. Oh, I think that, what was the Filipino game you're recommending too, had something like that.
Maharlika. There we go.
Maharlika. I gotta look that one up. I like those. It actually adds potentially a in-world actual symbiotic relationship that you could do, because once you get Magic, you can start playing with either psionics or some kind of spiritual aspect, which I find very interesting world building wise and playing around. Side note, I just realized season 3 of Digimon, when they go to Mega level, that is Magic Mechs.
Yeah,
they fuse, biomerge, best season ever. Fight me on it.
Yep, there you go.
Anyways.
Well, I mean, Wes, if you're gonna watch an anime that's Digimon, season 3, Digimon Tamers is the best. So
it's true.
It actually is worth a watch on a storytelling kind of level. So
I will. And I can't say I've ever watched an episode of Digimon.
You can watch it without having watched any other Digimon.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take a look at that. Yeah. One cool thing with the flesh mechs is they actually have a flesh mech that appears in the old Castle Amber module. Because there's a scene where I forget what they call it, but you end up in this other alternate province that's like anti-magic, and there's a wizard who animates this giant behemoth, and his body's like being dangled on the back of it, and he's like destroying. It's actually the picture from the cover of the module. He's like destroying temples. You have to take it all down. So there's that's a flesh mech way back in D&D's history.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Pre-Eberron flesh mechs.
I know more mechs than I thought. This is fun.
Yeah. See, okay, behind the scenes info for you people. He was saying that he didn't know nothing about no mechs. Him and Scrat were all like, I don't know nothing about no mechs and Magitek, when Scrat had literally written a world that has Magitek in it, and Wes has known more mechs than he thought he did.
Yes.
There you go. Perhaps you are the same, dear viewer. Perhaps you know more than you think you do.
Darren, that's so profound. That was so great.
Yeah.
I think the thing that really does intrigue me is when you brought up what was the game that had like your pilot had a spiritual connection to the mech?
That's the Maharlika.
Okay, that's Maharlika too. I mean, that's because that was one of the most intriguing things about the Voltron reboot. Was that like you had to create a bond with this machine in order to get it to work right. To me, that's that would be a cool character dynamic to play with.
Yeah.
So it would not just be the mechanics. So there would be a way to do like a story-driven game with mechs, and that would be, I think, a cool way to split the system out into two different kind of mechanics. So you had the big battle system, which could be, roll the dice and get your plus 50 modifiers, which, but like when you're dealing with the interpersonal stuff, you can change it to a much more intimate type role, which that would actually be a fun way to deal with the two different aspects of it. Because isn't that the thing that folks complain about RPGs all the time? All the mechanics are about combat, and they're not. But that's the thing that takes so much detail that we spend so much time writing about it.
Yeah.
But this would be a cool way to like switch it out and be like, okay, listen, there's literally now a mechanic to deal with how you relate to this machine and how that integrates you into the society, and that would be kind of cool. Of course, then people will then complain that it's not an integrated mechanic and it's poor design, but we can't please anybody. It's fine. So,
well, I think one of the beauties with kind of touching in on what you're talking about with the not knowing about what you didn't know you knew, we know a lot more about Magitek and have a lot more settings that have magical tech in it than we really think about. Because Eberron exists and has for a long time. Pathfinder has a literal part of the world, Numeria, or something like that, where it has Angolarian, that type of thing. Starfinder has magic in space. You have a lot of things, especially when you broaden out to, most people kind of stick with niche influences for, like, direct influences for their TTRPGs. But once you start to broaden it out to say, well, what about the other media that I've consumed? Well, yeah, there's this magical tech. Technically, Harry Potter has Magitek, but it's not nearly like what we're talking about. Imagine the influence, and we're kind of close to final thoughts. So I'm going to start us off with final thoughts. So this is my final thought. My final thought is really, at least for this first chat, think about how Magitek is going to influence the society around you. Because if you're able to power these big, huge mechs, what else are you able to power? You can power starships. You can power just land-based transport. Are you thinking maybe if this, dealing with the fuel sources again, if it's an elemental force that you're controlling that can influence the flavor you use for your mech, or that can have an influence on where you're able to use your mech, or where you're able to use this piece of technology for maybe the hotter the better for those mechs that run on a flame spirit, or an elemental trapped in that, let's say, core or something of that piece of machinery. And you can only use your particular piece of machinery in this part of the world. You got to change it. You got to have the squirrel mechanics change out your mech core if you want to go up and fight in the north or down under the sea, and so on. And maybe changing that out literally changes the abilities of your mech or of your machine at all, because you're going to have carriers for your mech. You can't just walk your mech everywhere. That would get very laborious. You've got to transport it on something faster, like maybe a sky carrier that has to be attuned to the element of air to be able to lighten this huge structure, this sky castle. So, I guess that's another media influence, The Legend of Lapida, with the Sky Castle is what it's called, or something like that, from Studio Ghibli, and there's also a book. So, there you go. So that's my final thought. Think about how it would influence the actual world around you, and whether that would bring more peace, more conflict, different types of conflict, whether resources would be scarce anymore, or if you're post scarcity on resources and more scarce on other things. So there you go. So that's mine. And let me see, there's 3 of us here now, so I'm going to go from top down. 1 to 2 is Dan, 3 to 4 is DM, and then Scrat is 5 to 6.
It goes.
5 to 6. You're so lucky tonight, Scrat.
Look at me go. So, you guys got awfully close to what I was thinking of when I was writing up some notes on this. But I already forgot the name. It's the Filipino game.
Maharlika.
Alright, so with the spirit connection to the next, I was thinking it'd be kind of cool if you had the whole, people were super advanced at one point, something happened, kind of reset them, technology got buried, and then they dig up these mechs. But the mechs were powered / fueled by a soul. like whoever was the original pilot. Now the soul is in that machine, and while you don't talk to it directly, like it would influence how it functions. Technically, anybody could still hop in and pilot it, but some people could have a better connection to it and pilot it to its more greater potential, I guess you could say. But from if there was some kind of way to communicate with it, and I don't know how you do this in a TTRPG, it would work better from a writing perspective. But then you have your duos there, right? Like the kid and the mentor, or the guy who rebellious outcast, and then your soul, the soul in the mech suit was an uptight soldier or something. Competing personalities there that have to learn to work together. So.
Intelligent items do have intellect scores.
Yeah, and then you can have, I guess technically you can have your character sheet for your pilot and then a character sheet instead of stats for your mech. But as far as, I don't know mechanically how you would make them combat each other and work together between the pilot and the mech, but there would be, for storytelling and character growth, there would be a lot of fun opportunities there. I think. But again, I don't. Cool. I have a lot of those ideas, and it's like, yeah, that's cool. I don't know how in the world I'm going to translate that to the table.
Oh, that's like, you could roll like 2 dice, and one matches each personality.
Make one player be the mech and another player be the pilot.
Yeah, that would be really wild. That would be cool.
That type of a setting also brings into question the morality of soul magic.
Well, that's actually, I guess, not the morality of it, but soul magic was the whole problem in the first campaign I ran. They found out somebody was sucking up souls and using them for things. Terrible way to go.
I actually did run something. It reminds me of something I ran with some of my friends where they played 2 characters, and it was kind of like a Digimon, Pokemon sort of thing, where they had 2 character sheets and they ran them both. This was unique to people who really love to roleplay, so they enjoyed actually kind of role-playing with each other. So it was more. So it was more storytelling
like that.
Yeah,
well, I mean, when you think about it, you could just do one's the bard buffing the other person.
Right. Yeah. So flaws within, like Open Legend has the flaws and stuff. You could look into that and maybe match them to have a mechanical effect of the relationship. I love that idea, though, Scrat. That's great.
It's a neat idea.
Yeah. I also like the idea of, in that setting anyway, the mechs being very, very rare, right? Each one's extremely unique, and they're not exactly in abundance. So,
right.
Fair enough. You could do a whole bunch of character development with that. Like the personality of a young pilot changing to be more like this grizzled, perhaps not so nice older pilot. Yeah. All right. I'm rolling again. Oh, it's you, Dan.
All right. I think I got distracted by Scrat's idea because I really liked it. But one of the things, I think the final thought I had is it's not as hard as it may seem to do magic with your mechs. It can be really simple, and I think it could give you a lot of fun, even though we've already joked about the sci-fi, the pseudo-science. But sometimes when you're trying to do the more hardcore science, you can feel... I personally tend to feel restricted. I don't feel I have a strength in that, and I want to better myself in that, but naturally I struggle with, I want to make it real, and I feel like I can't. The magic does give you that loosey-goosiness where you can kind of make stuff up, but it still feels mechy. It might be a nice way to doing magic mechs to transition into mech kind of games. Was it Wes? I think you kind of mentioned that earlier. But because it gives you that flexibility to play around with things, but then still make it mech. But then, whenever you're not sure, it's just magic. Magic fix. So I think that was really great. Great way to transition to it and still have fun. And I love, I get the Knights and Magic thing. I have no idea if it's good, but I like the idea of medieval looking mechs that are being piloted by people.
Just watch
Cool.
Excaflone. And
Okay.
you'll have much
anything
more
about that show
enjoyment.
other than it exists. That's all I remember.
Well, I mean, the design of the mechs for Excaflone is what stuck with me.
Yeah, they're cool looking.
Just so we're clear, we also have a comment. I thought of the comment for this time, going back to Scrat's idea. It's the ghost in the shell.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Well done.
There you go. So that's the comment for this time.
I thought it was going to be squirrel mechanics.
That is awesome.
I want squirrel mechanics.
Okay, so it's both ghost in the shell, squirrel mechanics, but it's like
Bonus
one
points
sentence.
if you do both.
Yeah, it's
What?
it's one sentence. Ghost in the shell, squirrel mechanics, because the squirrels are working on the ghost that's in the shell, or working on the
Yes.
shell that's for the ghost. So there you go.
But the squirrels have like data jack plugs in their head.
Yes.
It's all like
it.
hardcore, you know.
I want this game now.
I know, right? They always have to pause and fight with each other for a little bit while they're working.
They're standing up, like backed off on each other.
Yes, dude.
And instead of a sanity mechanic to keep up with, you have a concentration mechanic to see if they get this.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Squirrel.
that's good.
Squirrel brain. Okay.
Very good.
Okay, that means we're to DM. It's a DM Tales.
Oh yeah. For me, the whole thing of having like Magitek is, I like that idea of concentrating on what the role the pilots play in society. Are they held in high esteem? Are they viewed a little bit like askew? Like people kind of like are wary around them? Are they kept secret? There's one of the coolest things that they did with the redone Thrawn series of books for the new continuum in Star Wars is that his people are not force sensitive, but young girls can be, and they grow out of it by the time they're 12, and so they train them to be navigators through hyperspace lanes in the chaos from the thing. So it's the thing that gives them the edge in their culture, and so they keep them so no one is allowed to know they exist. It's really, really cool. So like that's the type of thing is like, so we have these mechs and we can pilot them. What role do the people have? Like, do we keep them as like this resource that no one else can touch, so that we have the edge? Are they like public priests? Are they celebrities? Like, what role do they play? And then going into that, what relationship do they have with their machines that they have to pilot? I think that's really like the character dynamic of that is something I would really like to explore. That would be fun.
All right. Well, we are past time, people. So, well, hopefully you've enjoyed, viewers. We've enjoyed chatting, and we're going to go right into the next one on our end, but for you, you'll have to wait a little while. While you're waiting, why don't you check out the previous chat we did in March when we talked about this. We also mentioned in that one about resource management, about the idea of whether magic works and tech works, or if they have to be separated at some point, or if there's a certain amount of separation and integration that has to happen, a lot of other things. So check that out if you'd like. But for now, and as always, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.
Okay, let's see.
Man, you guys, I got all these ideas now.
I know.
That secret thing is really cool.
I am so distracted because Discord has flipped my camera, and so I'm looking at my background, and all my text is reversed. So I'm really annoyed.
Oh. He's starting to twitch. Your OCD's.
So I'm having the squirrel moment.
Squirrel.
Shut up, squirrel.
All right, I gotta check this one.